Diagrieve August Falcha. This is the Sherlock Reel, and today we are talking about Marvel movies, not just the MCU, not just the random Sony films. We're going through Marvel, and we have 32 films here to try and find the best one. Uh, we Today I have a great panel alongside me, and we're going to start off
Oh, was frozen?
or
Oh,
the
you're back.
lot. I think Greg has just dropped out. Rob,
No,
why don't you introduce yourself there, Rob?
sure, I can start. Hi, my name's Robert Parker. You might know me from Schmut on stuff. If not, you just might know me as a total nerd who has loved Marvel movies as long as I can remember loving movies. So I'm mostly here for that.
Perfect. And next up, we have our usual guest, and Ted.
Hi all, good guy Ted here. As always, Retrotainment is my show on the Dynamo Podcast Network, where I might not always be the good guy there, but I'm always the good guy here.
Always the good guy here. Also from Retrotainment, we have Greg. Are you back with us?
I am, yeah. Sorry, it just glitched out there on me. Yeah, I am the co-host, capital C, capital O. Duly promoted by Ted there a couple of weeks ago. Thanks for that, buddy.
You're welcome.
Big film fan.
And great. And finally, also from the Dynamo Podcast Network, we have Peter.
How's it going, lads? I'm Peter. Unfortunately, not Parker like one of our other panel members. But yeah, I'm the Dynamo Podcast Network resident nerd alongside Ted.
If we could just merge
Perfect.
you two guys,
so
we'd
to
be
start
sorted.
off the show,
I've always joked that I want to name my son Peter.
it'd be a great way to go. It'd be a great way to go.
It's the only way to
start
go.
off, we have it's a big one. We have Avengers: The Infinity War. Have to start it off big, going up against Thor: The Dark World.
Easy.
Why don't we start off with yourself, Robert?
Yeah, this is a pretty easy one. Thor: The Dark World, I think there's some stuff to like in it here and there, but Infinity War is just miles and miles ahead.
Infinity War.
Yeah, for sure. Infinity War.
Greg, is that your vote there as well? Is it?
Yeah, overall, Thor 2 I thought was just bang average. Infinity War for me was probably one of the best, if not the best, Avengers one, and probably one of the best overall ones.
Perfect.
So Infinity War for me.
Peter, yourself?
It has to be Infinity War. Thor: The Dark World for me, as much as it had some good elements, is one of the very rare L's that I think the MCU took.
Fair point, yeah.
They have made it more important with Endgame and stuff. Made the movie more important.
That's true.
So all in all, I don't think it's a huge L. It's just not as good as the other films that's the MCU has brought out themselves. So I'll have to vote for the Infinity War as well. Ted, that much of a good guy that you're going to vote Dark World, or are you going with a clean sweep for Infinity War?
No, it's a clean sweep. Infinity War is the better film. Thor: Dark World is a building block. It's not it's fine. If someone puts it on and you'll sit down and watch it, it is enjoyable. But it's a building block to something bigger. So it's never going to be the best film out of the other Marvel films either.
It's probably the worst of the Thor movies as well.
Definitely agree with you there. So next up, and we'll start this with Peter yourself. We have probably the first difficult one here. We have Iron Man up against X-Men: Days of Future Past. I never said this show was easy, lads.
Ted's not gonna be happy with me. I'm going Iron Man. That scene in the cave that was taken straight from the comics, and then the animated show was chills. And as much as Days of Future Past was probably the best Fox-Men film, I still had questions over the timeline and things like that. And whereas Iron Man, I can sit, I know what's going on, and I can just watch it and enjoy it. and it's Robert Downey Jr.
Okay, that's one for. Well, that's fair. That is a huge plus. But you can't say the other one has Hugh Jackman, so you don't know where you're good
Yeah.
at. I'm guessing it's contentious here. So Ted, I'll have to go with you second. Where are you voting?
I don't know. Iron Man is kind of like the one that kicked off the MCU as we know it. So it's very hard to overlook it. But I don't know. I really liked that X-Men Days of Futures Past, and after a couple of kind of failed attempts with films for the X-Men, I think this one really set them up to do really well again. Now, the fact that they didn't do really well off the back of it is no reflection on this film itself. So I don't know. I'll go with
True.
X-Men because I prefer X-Men over Iron Man, but I can see Iron Man being the one that goes through here.
That's fair. That's fair. It's a difficult one myself. I'm going to hold off for a moment. Robert, what about yourself?
Yeah, this is definitely a tough one. I like both these movies quite a bit. I'm gonna go with X-Men: Days of Future Past. Actually, I do agree that Iron Man definitely kicked off the MCU, and you have to respect it for that. But if we're talking about the performances, like we're talking cross casts, like the time in the bottle sequence, and just everything X-Men: Days of Future Past is doing. That movie's firing on all cylinders. From McAvoy taking the serum, and McAvoy when he's reading Jackman's mind and talking to his future self. Like that's an incredible scene. Fassbender, probably his best movie is Magneto, maybe First Class, but I love everything that Days of Future Past is doing.
That's a fair point. Fair point. Greg, what about yourself?
It's gotta be Iron Man for me. I wasn't a great fan of
Iron Man for you.
the three newer X-Men. I don't know. I just couldn't get into him. I'm not a great fan of James McAvoy as an actor, anyway. And even less so as Michael Fassbender.
Right.
To me, I don't know whether it was the casting that threw me off the movies, and I looked at it in a bad way from that, but I just couldn't buy into them. So it's gotta be Iron Man for me.
Iron Man for yourself. So I have the decision here. Is it Iron Man or X-Men Days of Future Past? Both are stellar. I mean, Days of Future Past, yes, bad guy Carl. We have that's the thing that's going on for a couple of weeks here now, apparently. I'm gonna have to go just because I think Downey Jr. has better performances in other films, not necessarily Iron Man films itself. But I'm gonna have to go for Days of Future Past here because that's probably my favorite
That's
of
gonna
an
be
X-Men
controversial.
ensemble film.
Yeah, surprised to see Iron Man get put out here.
That is, I am surprised myself. I originally when the bracket was made up, I didn't think X-Men was going through, but them's the chops. Them's the chops. Next up, it is Spider-Man: Far From Home against Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi one.
I'll give you Peter's
And
vote.
we'll start off with we'll start off with Ted. Why don't you start with yourself?
I'll give mine and Peter's vote. They both go for Spider-Man 2. Isn't that right, Peter? No, far from it. Far From Home. Spider-Man: Far From Home. I think Spider-Man: Far From Home. I think this is the series where they got Spider-Man right. This is the best Spider-Man they've ever had. I think all the other ones were fine, but the only major problem I think with the newer Spider-Mans is probably Aunt May is too young.
Hot.
But in term, yeah, I didn't want to say that, but yeah, but Spider-Man is this is the perfect casting for Spider-Man. So when you're talking about which one is better, it's always going to be the newer Spider-Mans, I think, compared to the older ones.
I agree. My vote is for Far From Home as well. I think Tom Holland is the better Spider-Man, I think, and Peter Parker. I think he's, if you're ranking all three, Tobey Maguire was a better Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield was a better Spider-Man, but Tom Holland's better as both, if that makes sense. But I think Far From Home was a better movie than Spider-Man 2. Do you agree with yourself, Robert?
I'm gonna have to disagree with you both. Actually, I like Far From Home quite a bit, but Spider-Man 2 is like top 20 movies of all time for me, top 25. Like I love this movie. This is one of the movies that like
Okay.
got me into superhero movies. I love Spider-Man 2 so much. And I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Tom Holland is incredible in the movie. Jake Gyllenhaal is really fun and plays that character in a really good way. I just love Spider-Man 2 so much. There's just so many like Raimi-isms in that movie that just make it so unique, and it really is of its time in the sense that like the visual effects, like you can tell, are a little bit earlier, but also just like it was a different era of comic book filmmaking. Like it wasn't this sort of meat processing like factory where they're just churning out MCU movies like Far From Home is. It feels a little bit more unique, where Far From Home feels like it's
True.
a cog in the machine a little bit. Which I like the movie quite a bit, but like there's just some stuff in Far From Home that I'm not the biggest fan of. You know, the scroll reveal I think is super dumb, and there's just the spirit of Tony like looming over that movie. It doesn't really let Spider-Man be Spider-Man, and I love Spider-Man. I'm not like the biggest Iron Man fan, so I don't really like it. Works in the overarching story of the MCU, but I think it holds up Far From Home a little bit as a movie itself. So my vote's actually going to go for Spider-Man 2.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Greg, what?
Well, I did enjoy the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. 2 was the one with Doc Ock, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Who I'm actually really
Alfred
looking
Molina
forward
was
to
good.
coming back. He is coming back, Alfred Molina, isn't he? In the
Yeah, well, I don't know if
far
it's
as I'm
actually
aware.
confirmed, but
Rumored,
there's
yeah.
a lot
yeah.
of it being rolled around.
Yeah.
But like, Far From Home's just a better movie. Like Spider-Man 2 is easier to follow, but like you can just sit down and put it on, and it is what it is. But Far From Home for me will go through here. It's a better movie overall.
Okay, Far From Home has the 3 votes and is going through. Peter, would you have agreed the same, or
Yeah,
was Spider-Man 2 your vote?
golden buzzer for Far From Home for me, without question. Ted knows I have very strong opinions on the Raimi films that get me in a lot of trouble. I'm the biggest Spider-Man stan out there, but Tobey Maguire just never hit that right note for me, and I think it all started with the bioorganic webs. Never hit the right note for me. Best thing about them movies, in my opinion,
Okay.
was the villains. Green Goblin, the first one, Molina as Doc Ock in the second one. That was, I think, in my opinion, no disrespect to anyone, but a lot of it is hyped up by nostalgia. And to me, I think if you're going by comics, I started on Ultimate Comics, and Tom Holland is perfect from Ultimate Comics.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Willem
I think there's a lot
Dafoe
of
as Green
nostalgia.
Goblin was brilliant.
From the Ultimate Comics, Paul Hammond. Yeah.
Although the greatest thing about those original Spider-Man films is not the villains, it's Jameson. He's the best thing about all of those films.
We have him
He's
back now.
perfectly cast. Yeah, he's perfectly cast as well. Like,
Next up, we have 2 films from a completely different eras. We're going to go with Guardians of the Galaxy versus Blade. Yeah, very different.
I demand a recount.
See a negative reaction from you. Have to vote first, my friend.
This isn't fair. I think the Blade was the very first Marvel movie I ever seen, and I know it's kind of an actiony horror film, and it kind of fits right into my favorite genre of films, and I love it so much. I love the 3 of them, even though the third one's meh. But Guardians of the Galaxy was a top end movie. Arguably one of the best the MCU done, in my opinion. I know Guardians of the Galaxy is probably going through here, but I'm gonna go with Blade. Wesley Snipes was brilliant. Chris
One vote
Christopherson
for
as Whistler.
Blade. Okay. While Peters just has to nip off there for a moment, and so I won't vote in on this one, and we'll let who will we let? I won't let Good Guy Ted because I know where that's going to go. So we'll get Robert. Why don't you vote for yourself?
Sure. So I like Blade fine. I think it's it's good. It's a movie that I didn't see till a little bit later, so I don't have a lot of nostalgia for it. I don't have a lot of love loss. Guardians of the Galaxy is like as close to a perfect MCU movie as you can possibly get. Like it's in top 2, top 3 MCU movies. It's incredible. It is also probably in my top 25 favorite movies of all time. It is Marvel saying, "Hey, we can do whatever we want." Just an absolute game changer. Every performance, every visual effect, everything is just firing on all cylinders in that movie. Blade, I think it's aged pretty poorly. Specifically like the visuals.
Yeah,
I still think it's a good movie. I still think that the script and the action are fine. I just think for
Yeah.
a movie that came out 22 years ago or 23 years ago, it really does feel like it. Whereas Guardians of the Galaxy just feels timeless. So I gotta go Guardians.
Stephen Dorff as Deacon Frost
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
one of the best
that's
bad
good.
guys I could think of growing up.
Right. That was very of 1998. Yeah.
He was savage as Deacon Frost.
And the opening scene in Blade is just phenomenal as well. I can't let it go out without mentioning that. So it's not going to be Good Guy Ted here whatsoever because he has to eliminate a movie here. Is it Guardians or Blade going through?
Before I say that, like I disagree with Rob there. I think the visuals are actually very good for Blade when you consider the fact that it was like it is as old as it is. Like I think the way they have the zombies, like dusted out and stuff, and the vampires dusted out, and like even the skeletal bats coming out of the mouths.
Yeah.
I think that's done really well because I don't know if everyone notices it, but they have like a human skull, and then the skeletal bat skull comes out of the human skull. I think that's done really, really well. I think in terms of visual effects, even the fact that that's 20 plus years old, I think it still stands up today. I don't think they'd do an awful lot better than that today.
And Wesley Snipes
think-
done all his own stunts.
The blood recreation is pretty bad in the last
the
in the
blood
last
recreation,
15, 20 minutes. Yeah.
yeah, the blood recreation.
I
Is
agree with
bad.
you on the skeleton thing though. That's
Yeah.
pretty well done.
The blood is badly done, but
It's
I mean,
pretty bad.
you are looking at 20 years ago, so
Yeah, 100%.
we have had technological advances, and I'm sure 20 years from now we'll look back at Guardians of the Galaxy and be like, Jesus, look how bad that is.
Probably.
But like Blade, it's unfortunate that it came up against something so hard hitting so early, because it was probably I think this is probably the first real Marvel film that was ever made, like on a big budget sort of thing. And the fact that like obviously they didn't go for they didn't try to like tone it down or make it friendly, because that's not what Blade's about. It's it's a guy going around literally killing vampires with a sword and guns. Like you can't dumb that down for children any more than that. So I think they took a risk when they brought this out, and I think if it came out now when Marvel already has a name behind it, I think it would do insanely well. Like I think it would be up there, like against Deadpool in terms of
it
that
is
sort of.
It's coming out as a TV
It is.
show.
They're doing a new one now with Mahershala Ali.
Yeah, but like when it comes out, I think it'll go up against the likes of Deadpool, which people like that's the over 18s Marvel film. But it's come up against Guardians of the Galaxy, which whether you're a comic book fan or even like if you're not even a Marvel fan or a superhero film fan, I think people just loved this. Like the soundtrack alone drew a lot of people in, and then the entire story drew people in. So I don't think it's too hard of a one. I think Guardians of the Galaxy probably takes my vote here. But as always, Still good guy Ted, because there's still 2 votes to go.
He
Sorry,
100%
lads.
rambled on
Every
just
time-
to come back.
Good guy
Every time I
Ted.
back Tobey Maguire, something happens to the computer.
So Peter, you made it back just in time. Is it are you voting there for Guardians of the Galaxy or Blade?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
I played.
Smart man. Smart man.
Nice and simple.
Blade. Listen,
Guardians going through.
Yeah.
That's my vote as well for Guardians.
Yeah, I think Guardians just
I
has
just-
better
I-
rewatch value.
Like, let's be fair. I was like, I did say it was going to
That's
be the
fair.
better movie, and
That's
it probably
fair.
would have got my vote going through, but I couldn't let Blade go out with.
That's fair, Greg. You know, you're a good guy. You didn't want to see it get put out on its like without a vote. You know.
Next up, and we'll start off with Robert here yourself. We have Captain America: Winter Soldier up against Iron Man 2.
Yeah, this is a pretty easy one for me. Winter Soldier is, again, probably top 2, 3, 4 MCU movies. It's incredible. Iron Man 2 is fine. There's more enjoyable stuff than people think, but if I'm going to sit down and watch one of these right now, 10 times out of 10, it's going to be Winter Soldier.
Oh, agreed, 100%. My vote's
Yeah.
Winter Soldier as well. Definitely one of the better MCU films. Anyway, everyone else is anybody else voting for Iron Man, or is it all Winter Soldier? That's what I need to say here, really.
I will give you
Yeah.
probably a spoiler alert for going forward. I still flip flop on it a bit, but Winter Soldier for me has always been jumping between 1 and 2 of the best comic book
Yeah.
movies of all time.
It's
I'll
definitely
give
up there.
Iron Man a
It's-
vote
There's
just
no
so it
denying
doesn't
it.
go out
So
empty.
I feel a little bit bad for
Ted,
Robert
what about
Downey
yourself?
Jr. Like, I feel a little bad for Robert Downey Jr. Like, Iron Man was like, you know, it was the basis for a lot of these Marvel,
Yeah.
like the whole MCU to go, and Iron Man 1 is already gone. Iron Man 2 is gone, which leaves him with Iron Man 3. And let's be honest, that's not going to
It's
get
not
all
going
that
to
will
anywhere,
go.
is it? Yeah.
So I feel a little bit bad for him, but there's
I'll argue
Hold on.
though.
yeah,
I think he's doing okay. I think
Put him up
RDJ is
against the
going to
Hulk.
do okay.
if it gets up against the Hulk, it might get through, but overall, it's not going to get too far. But yeah, no, Winter Soldier, I think, is probably one of the better films in the entire MCU. So yeah, it'll go through against Iron Man 2 here.
Perfect. I'll argue for Robert Downey Jr. that his performances in the Avengers films are better than his performances in the Iron Man singular films.
Absolutely.
You
Oh, I
know,
don't
he
know.
makes up for it.
For sure.
His performance in the first Iron Man is pretty good as the arrogant arsehole. Like, I know he goes the whole way through like that, but he's a lot more in your face in the first one.
True. Next up, we're moving out of the MCU, and we can start with yourself there, Peter. We have Deadpool up against X2. Yeah. Not an easy
Ryan
one
Reynolds.
there.
Ryan Reynolds for the win. Deadpool
That's
is
tough.
just was Ryan Reynolds like campaigned for that for years and finally got it made, and he got that
Yeah.
made, and it was perfection. He is Wade Wilson, and after the horrible debacle in X-Men Origins, to like bring some redemption to the Wade Wilson character was just incredible. X2 wasn't one of
Yeah, it was
my
brilliant.
most hated films in the Fox X-Men series, but up against Deadpool, you're up against a merc with a mouth, and he's just gonna shut your mouth. It's Deadpool all the way for me.
For Deadpool. Ted, yourself?
Yeah, like I'm a big X-Men guy, but I don't think any of those old X-Men films get past Deadpool here. Definitely not the third one anyway. 1, maybe 2 would have a chance, but I don't think 1 or 2 even has a chance against Deadpool. I think Deadpool was just he's too strong a character, and the film is just done so well that yeah, it's like Deadpool is going to go far in this, I think. Just because it's such a popular character and the film is done so well and it sticks so true to what Deadpool should be. So yeah, it's definitely not going to go out against something like this.
Okay, Robert, I saw you were struggling with it. It is a difficult one.
Yeah,
I'm kind of
it's
struggling
tough.
with it myself.
It, it's tougher than it seems because I really like X2. I think like today, like X2 might even be a little bit underrated. I think people don't give that movie enough credit. But it's Deadpool. I mean, Deadpool is just so well made. It's just so simple. It's the small budget really helps that movie. The script is so tight. The romance is so good. The performances are just so well done. The action is great. I think X2 is underrated at this point in time, and I think it is a very good movie. You know, Brian Cox is great in that movie. I love how the way that they bring in the new X-Men. You know, they bring in Pyro, they bring in Nightcrawler. Like, that movie is really well done and has more rewatch value than people give it credit for. But I mean, Deadpool is Deadpool.
Yep, I completely agree. Like Nightcrawler, are my favorite characters when they introduce them, and they've done Crawler well in an X film. I'm going to argue because in the later ones, I haven't really enjoyed it, to be honest. Um, but yeah, no, I'm going to have to vote for Deadpool there myself in this one. Is it a clean sweep for yourself, Greg, as well?
Yeah, as soon as it came up, there's only going to be about 3 or 4 movies that might put me off voting for Deadpool. X2 isn't one of them. It's 5-0.
Okay, perfect. Next up is one of my favorites actually in this. We have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse up against Thor.
Easy one
I'm
for
gonna
me.
start this one off myself. I'm going with Spider-Verse. I thought that was just it surprised me at how well it was, and the animation in the film was unbelievable. And I'm definitely voting that to the next round. What about yourself, Ted?
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse was one that I was 50-50 on when I was going into the cinema. I was kind of like, this could go really well, or it could go really, like, it could be a complete train wreck. And it went really, really well. This was one of the best films they've done for Spider-Man. I think it's obviously a little bit different. It's not it doesn't need to tie into anything in particular in terms of the MCU storyline and stuff like that. But they did such a good job with this, and I don't know. Thor 1 and 2 aren't particularly great, to be honest. They're not bad. They're just not great. And so it's not too difficult. I think Into the Spider-Verse is one of the best standalone MCU films that they've done. So
Perfect. Okay, that's another vote for Spider-Verse. Do you agree there, Robert, yourself?
Yeah, I'm a pretty big defender of the first Thor movie. I like that movie a lot more than most people. I think the relationship between Thor and Loki is like really interesting to get into, and Hopkins is really good, and the Jane Foster Thor dynamic is really sweet and endearing. So I like that movie quite a bit. But Spider-Verse is like incredible. Like everything, every frame of that movie is like a painting. All the voice cast is on point. It's just so perfect. I mean, the scene from where Miles is like listening to his father outside the door through the "What's Up Danger" sequence, maybe the best like comic book movie scene ever. It is that good. The soundtrack is that good. It's just Spider-Verse is incredible. So you gotta go for that.
Yeah, 100%. Greg, do you agree?
I think my son would disown me if I didn't pick Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. He's seen it on Netflix when it came out there, and that's how long ago. And I think I've watched it with him about 400 times since. Yeah, no, I wasn't a great fan of Thor 1. I thought it was too much of a love story, for what it was. But yeah, no, Spider-Man. I watched it the first time and I didn't really like it. And then I watched it again. And I was like listening to it, and watching it properly, and I was like, I actually like this one. There's bits I didn't see it in the first one, and things I didn't listen to. But yeah, no, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was very, very good.
Perfect. And do you agree there, Peter, yourself?
Yeah, look, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse won an Oscar, if I'm remembering correctly, for animation. And comic book movies don't win Oscars. Let's be honest here; they don't usually win Oscars. Thor 1 it's a solid origin story. It's by no means blow your socks off. It gave us some great one-liners, and it gave us the character of Thor and True Hawkeye in there, so we had a valid reason to have the Avengers together. So it was a means to an end, I think, in terms of the phase 1. But Into the Spider-Verse for me, like Rob said there, the voice cast, just Jake Johnson as a middle-aged beat-down Spider-Man is beautiful. Kathryn Hahn as Doc Ock, and now she's in the MCU as Agatha. It's just everything about it was perfect. And again, coming from Ultimate Comics, seeing Miles on screen, on the big screen, was just amazing for me.
Perfect. That's a clean sweep there for Spider-Verse. Next up, this is actually I wonder how this one is going to go. They do out there for some reason of the Avengers, the first one, up against Captain Marvel.
Easy.
And we'll start off with Ted.
It's kind of strange. I think Captain Marvel gets a bit of a bad rep in terms of, it kind of gets put down a lot by a lot of people because they focused, when they were making the film, they focused a lot on the fact that, she's a strong woman. And they really tried to drive that point home, which I don't think they needed to do. I think they could have just let the character itself progress and people would have got that point. It didn't need to be driven home as much as it was. But it makes a bit of a fool out of the likes of Nick Fury and stuff, which I think really hurts the rest of the Marvel universe to make Nick Fury look so stupid, like such an idiot so early on. So for me, it's going to be Avengers, which I think obviously it's got a great importance in terms of the rest of the MCU as well. So one helped the MCU develop, and I think the other one has kind of hindered it in a certain way as well. So yeah, Avengers for me.
Avengers. Okay. I don't know if I fully agree with the whole Nick Fury point there. But Robert, what about yourself there?
I'm also going to vote for Avengers. I like Captain Marvel fine. I think it's good. It's mid to low tier MCU movie, but that's only because the MCU has so many amazing movies. In a different franchise, that's probably bottom of the top tier or top of the mid tier, but the MCU just has so many home runs that it's hard to rank it higher. I love the Skrulls in this movie. I love everything that the Skrulls are doing. I think Ben Mendelsohn is just having the time of his life. I really do like the dynamic between Veers and I can't what is her name? Lashana Lynch's character. I can't think of the Maria Rambeau. I think that's really good. I do like seeing young Coulson and young Fury, but Avengers is just so tight. It's just such a great movie. The action is so good, and the character moments of bringing the team together just really hit so hard, especially now, in a post-Endgame world. You go back and watch that movie, it's still just as effective.
True. Oh, it's very true. And Coulson actually in both. I just realized that there. We don't see Coulson in much, but Coulson makes his appearance in both of these. Greg, yourself.
Captain Marvel wasn't one that I got into. I didn't even finish it. I couldn't buy into her at all, or let alone the movie. So it'd be Avengers for me. Avengers. I was only saying to you the other day. I think Avengers 1 is one of the top end ones that you're gonna get. It's a big challenger in this. But yeah, Avengers for me.
Perfect. And Peter, yourself?
I'm going to start. I agree with Ted and Rob there that it was Captain Marvel was bashed unfairly, in my opinion. I disagree with Ted on the Nick Fury point. I think seeing Nick
100%.
Fury as a goofy young Shield agent, I think helps his character development and shows he grew up. But again, that's a different perception that I have that other people could have different there. I think Captain Marvel was an amazing movie. I think it was, like Robert said, mid-tier, but it does what it needs to do. But at the end of the day, The Avengers is one of the pillars of comic book movies. It was built up, it was paced really well, and just the development of the story was outstanding. So Avengers for me.
Yep, I'd be the same there. Avengers. You know, when you go through the history of film in the next 10, 15 years, this is going to be one of the pivotal movies that actually gets brought up is the Avengers because of what it did and the big team up that happened from all these films that came together. You know, it was the first one that did it within the MCU. So the Avengers is going to be one of these pivotal films for a long time
It was
into the future.
it was built
Um,
so well over the origin movies that they came out with, and the stories that they were building through them to build to that was just unbelievable. Like for what you
it's
had to
exactly,
do, what you had to
exactly.
do to link them all up was nothing short of perfection in a way.
It was their first 10 out of 10, in my opinion.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, no, actually, no. Howard the Duck was 10 out of 10.
I'd agree there. From starting it off there with the Avengers to ending it, we have the Avengers Endgame next up against the Incredible Hulk, and we'll start
Hello,
off
Hulk.
with yourself, Greg.
Hello, Incredible Hulk. Yeah, no, this is a 5-0 win. If ever there's going to be a 5-0 win,
Yeah, that's just
I
swap.
don't,
That's
I don't even,
fly by
I
this
don't
one.
even think, I don't even think you need to elaborate on this. It's Endgame through.
Yeah,
It's sad that-
everybody's the
it's
same
sad that
here.
Hulk- It's
Yeah.
sad that Hulk can't get a good solo film. Like it's sad because it's such a good character and it's incredible that no matter how many times they make Hulk as its own film, it's terrible. But yeah, like that's the only way to put it. Like they're terrible in comparison to the other MCU films. Like
Well, I don't know how Ed Norton got cast as one of the Hulks.
Yeah, that's a big L. Two real quick things about Incredible Hulk, just to like say some good things
Yeah.
about it. I think Tim Roth knows exactly what movie he's in, and he's doing a very, very good job of it. I really like Tim Roth in that movie. And then also, I think the action is actually really, really good. Like the university fight and the Harlem fight at the end are like some of the best action scenes in the first phase of the MCU. So if you take it
Yeah,
to just
it's
that,
true.
it's good. But the story as a whole, right? Obviously, it's clean sweep for Endgame.
Yeah, it's,
100%.
that's been the easiest one.
100%. Next
Yeah.
up, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. This now is actually quite intrigued to see which one will go through. And we'll start off with yourself, Peter. It's Ant-Man against X-Men First Class.
This one's the first proper
It's a
head
tough
scratcher
one,
for
I
me.
think.
Yeah, it's tough.
Ant-Man is Ant-Man. It's Paul Rudd, the owner of the Fountain of Youth. But First Class was one of the best X-Men movies Fox produced, bar one that I'm sure is going to come up later. But I still can't forgive what they done to Darwin. I can't forgive that. What happened to Darwin? I can't
Adapt to
forgive.
this. Yeah, it's a heartbreaker.
I can't forgive that. So I'm gonna go with Ant-Man on this one, just for again an origin story. I'm bringing Paul Rudd in, and just for the guy's name Luis, is it? And his storytelling genius.
Oh, the friend.
I really want him to do it. I want him to get to do it and just into MCU so far. I want to see it. It would make my day. It really
It's a
would.
$1 billion movie.
But Ant-Man, what out there? Ted, do you agree?
I don't know. Ant-Man, like Paul Rudd, Paul Rudd's so hot right now. But like, I don't know. This is actually, as Peter said, this is probably the first really, really big one. Because I think Ant-Man as an origin story is done really, really well, but it comes quite late into the MCU. So they had already caught their stride. Like, they knew what they were doing by that point, whereas the likes of Iron Man, Thor and stuff, they were still quite at the beginning. So they hadn't hit that stride of being confident in what they needed to do and knowing what was good and what was bad. So they had that on their side when they made Ant-Man. But then Ant-Man also provides such an integral and important part in films going forward as well, that it'll be very sad to see it go out. But I don't know, X-Men First Class, I think, again, like, this is it, they did a really good job with this in terms of like rebuilding X-Men after, a couple of false starts on it. Or, well, not false starts, but false endings at least. I'll give X-Men First Class a vote because I think it would be sad to see it get knocked out. But I can expect to see Ant-Man kind of going through here. Although I said that the last time and Iron Man got knocked out, so.
It's true. It is a very tough one, actually, this one. I don't know where my mind is going with it. What do you think about yourself, Rob?
I'm going to agree with Ted. I'm going to go First Class. I like Ant-Man a lot. I think the MCU's best sort of solo films are when they're a part of another genre. So they're not just, a comic book action movie, but they're a heist movie or a period piece or a, moral thriller like Winter Soldier, something like that. I think that's when they operate the best. And Peyton Reed is doing something really special with Ant-Man. And that movie rocks. But First Class is very special place in my heart. I think it's my favorite of any movie in the X-Men universe. The casting of McAvoy and Stewart are perfect, and all the rest of them too. I mean, Nicholas Hoult is really, really good in this movie. This is when Jennifer Lawrence still cared about making X-Men movies. I think there's a lot going right in First Class. The Magneto story is just so good. They just did a really, really, really good job. Matthew Vaughn is one of my favorite directors working today, and he just knocks it out of the park with First Class.
Okay, that's two votes for First Class. Greg, are you voting First Class true, or is Ant getting a vote?
No, Ant-Man's getting a vote for me. As I said, I didn't really like the casting of McAvoy and Fassbender, but that's probably the best of the newer ones. But I did Ant-Man not expecting anything. I was expecting it to be probably one of the worst movies they made, and I really enjoyed it. Michael Douglas as Pym was brilliant. So it'll be Ant-Man for me.
All right, so you've given me the vote to choose. Is it Ant-Man or is it X-Men?
See, I wouldn't might have changed that vote if you hadn't have said you thought it won't be that easy to make.
I'm going to. The way I'm going to choose this one to go through is if you give me the two of them to pick, or give me the two of them, and I'd say, right, which one to watch, I'm going to have to vote for First Class. That's just the only way I can qualify it. I thoroughly enjoyed the two of the films. It's a very close vote. It's a very, very close vote. But I'm going to have to go for First Class to go around. Not an easy thing to decide at all.
Yeah, that was a hard one.
I actually thought you might have went Batman, to be honest.
Next one. For me, this one coming now is actually easy. I wonder how it is for everybody else. And we'll start off with yourself, Rob. We have Spider-Man: Far From Home, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Is this supposed to be Homecoming?
Yeah, we had Far From Home already.
Yep. So, apologies. Yes, it's meant to be Homecoming.
No, you're good. I was just making sure.
That's my bad. Yep.
No, you're totally fine. I like these movies both quite a bit. I
Yeah.
think Guardians Volume 2 gets a bit of a bad rap, but I think the relationship between the Guardians is really, really strong in this movie. I think Rocket is my favorite Guardian. We see way more about his character. You empathize way more with the characters in this one, or at least on an equal level as you do with the first one. You know, learning more about Yondu, learning more about Quill's relationship with his father, and obviously Quill's relationship with Gamora, and Gamora and Nebula's relationship. And I think the jokes are just as funny in Guardians 1. You know, they lose some of their touch. You know, the Drax stuff changes a little bit, which I'm not the biggest fan of. How his sort of style of comedy changes. He becomes more of a
Yeah.
one-liner instead of like the ultimate straight man, which is what I think made him funny in the first Guardians. And that unfortunately continues. I don't really like his comedy in the Avengers movies either, but yeah, I gotta go Guardians too. I like I like Homecoming a lot. Michael Keaton is great. Tom Holland is great. Really great movie. But I am gonna give some Guardians some love because I know a lot of people rag on that movie a little bit.
That's fair. Greg, what about you?
I love Guardians of the Galaxy, but I think as much as certain things I didn't really like about the new Spider-Mans, I'm going to give Spider-Man the vote in this one. I thought Michael Keaton as the Vulture was brilliant. And I enjoyed the movie overall.
Perfect.
It was just, yeah, I'd probably sit down and watch. I'd probably sit down and watch Guardians quicker, but overall, I think I preferred Spider-Man.
Great. My vote here is definitely going for Homecoming. When first got introduced to this version of Spider-Man in Civil War, I was like, right, I need to see more, and they delivered perfectly in Homecoming. I was delighted with every single part of that film. Guardians 2, I thoroughly enjoyed the first Guardians, but just the thing that annoyed me so much about Guardians 2 was Drax. He was one of my one of the best things in the MCU in my opinion, and then they changed his character completely and just made him basically the funny man, and that wasn't him in the first one. They changed it completely, and I kind of can't get past it. It's just something in my own head I can't get past, and because of that, it's probably the film in the entire MCU that I've watched the least is Guardians 2. I think I've only seen it twice, and it's that reason is why. So my vote is going for Homecoming there. Yourself, Peter?
Homecoming's going through. Gives my vote. I love the Guardians. Don't get me wrong. To me, the Guardians movies are the action sitcoms of the MCU. They're easy to watch. You can sit down, turn your brain off, and just enjoy the movie and have a few laughs and gorgeous visuals. Homecoming was Spidey's MCU debut after years of fans wanting him in the MCU, and Michael Keaton as Vulture, as Greg said, outstanding. He's just perfect casting, and it gave me
genius.
Yeah, it gave me a panel from the comics that I thought I'd never see in a movie of where Spider-Man lifts the rubble off himself, and it was just like ripped straight from the page. And I'm not gonna lie, I was almost in tears watching it. I was like, the inner nerd in me came out, and I was like, yes. And it was a great character development from Peter, from thinking he needed the Stark Tech suit and then being like Stark taking it from him, and him going out on his own and handling his business.
Perfect. Ted,
Michael
which way would you is going through in any way, but
I probably would have gone Guardians 2. I think it gets quite a bad rap in terms of people remembering it because it's not as good as Guardians 1. You know, and there's always going to be one film that's better than the other when you have a series of films. But I think as a standout, like if Guardians 2 came out before Guardians 1, I think people would have liked Guardians 2 a lot. So, and I also think Yondu's death is done so well. And I think that's a really they really learned a lot from doing that in that film. And it's probably one of the first big kind of, you know, sad scenes we see in a Marvel film setting. And they learned how to pull at heartstrings using that and then we're able to, develop from there for the later films in what they needed to do. So yeah, I would have gone Guardians, but I can see why Spider-Man: Homecoming would go through as well. Like it's a work of art.
Excellent. Perfect. So that's Homecoming going through to the next round. Next up, we have Captain America: Civil War against Avengers: Age of Ultron, and we'll start off with your Greg.
Civil War, easy one. This
Civil
Civil
War.
War just kind of Civil War was for me uh was so enjoyable. It was just action, good storytelling, good scenes. Hey, don't get me wrong, Age of Ultron had some good scenes and brought some other things in, but Civil War was overall the better movie for me.
I'm going to go for Civil War as well. I thought as much as Age of Ultron is now is integral to the entire MCU storyline, and it's just from WandaVision, it's by itself has actually become even more integral. It is Civil War was one of the emotional centerpieces of the entire thing, and everything with Tony and Cap was excellent. Baron Zemo, everything involved. So yeah, that's gonna be my vote there for Civil War. Peter, yourself?
I think Age of Ultron over the years has got on a serious bashing for no good reason. I done a Marvel watch through during this COVID lockdown because there's nothing better to do. And honestly, when you watch it again,
everybody did.
Yeah, it is a great movie. I think it stands up. But Captain America: Civil War gave me the debut of Spider-Man in the MCU. It gave me the heart-wrenching scene of the "He's my friend, so was I," and to me, it goes through. And Captain America is, until No Way Home at least, is the only character in the MCU to get a completely consistent, like, amazing trilogy, all three movies.
Still
I'd
a
agree there.
dickhead,
Yes,
though.
100%. Ted.
So, like Age of Ultron is, as
Ted,
Peter
what
said,
about yourself?
Age of Ultron, as Peter said, like it gets a bad rap, solely because it's not as good as the other Avengers films. That's why it's so bad, is because it's not as good as the other Avengers films. That's it. Like that's the only reason it gets talked badly about, and it's one of the most integral building blocks in terms of the MCU. We wouldn't have known it then, but like, now we know how important that film is. But it's definitely not the winner here. Like Captain America. Well, first of all, it's not Captain America: Civil War. Like let's like fans need to just accept that that's not a Captain America film. That's that's an Avengers film. It's not Captain America. It's Avengers: Civil War. But it's the better film here. Like it's not a Captain America film. It's all Avengers. Like the whole thing is just an Avengers film. Like.
Fair enough. That's
Fair
4 for Civil War. Do we have a do we have all 5 votes there for Civil War? Or does Age of Ultron get a vote there, Rob?
No, I'm going to agree on the voting, but I am going to disagree that it's not a Captain America movie. I think that movie actually does a very, very good job of centering on Steve's story and his relationship with Bucky, and how Bucky is like the most tragic character in the MCU, and how it tracks, him on the run. They're not really, there's some scenes here and there, but it's not like half of the movie is Tony and half of the movie is Cap. I do think they actually do a very, very good job of making it a Captain America movie that happens to have Black Panther and Spider-Man and Vision and Iron Man in it. They really do focus on his story and how Zemo affects him and Bucky, and how Sam is with him. We see like the assembly of his team more than we see the assembly of Tony's team. Like, I do think it is a pretty good Captain America movie. But I agree with everybody actually that I'm glad to hear other people saying that Age of Ultron is kind of underrated, because I really like that movie. I think it's maybe the most important movie in the MCU if we're talking about what happens because of it. But it's not Civil War.
Like
Perfect.
you
Yep.
feel a bit
No,
bad for Age of
I
Ultron.
definitely agree there.
Yeah, I
Next,
think against a different MCU matchup, it actually might have made it around in, but
Possibly,
Like
yeah.
if that
not against Thor.
if Age of Ultron didn't have the name Avengers
Yeah,
at the
no,
front of it, it's a
I
pretty
agree.
fucking good movie.
Yeah.
That's very true. Next up, we have Black Panther versus the Amazing Spider-Man. And I'm going to start this one here with a vote for Black Panther, hands down. As I didn't mind the Amazing Spider-Man films, but Black Panther is one of the best MCU films overall, and I'm going to save my arguments for later on because hopefully it's going true. And my vote's for Black Panther. Peter, yourself?
This one was a difficult one for me. Was reading it. Amazing Spider-Man for me was the first step towards the Spider-Man I wanted to see in movies. Andrew Garfield brought the quips, he brought the humor that I didn't believe Tobey Maguire had, and I loved seeing the Spider-Man be witty behind the mask. And I thought the suit was amazing too,
Yeah.
and the villain was good. But it's Black Panther. It's like Chadwick Boseman is just outstanding in it. Like we have him, we have Michael B. Jordan, and then we have Layden Smeagol, the Tolkien white guy in the movie. So yeah, it's Black Panther for me all the way.
Perfect. Ted, do you agree, or are you voting for Spidey?
No, yeah, I agree. I think the Amazing Spider-Man, I think, is quite good. I think, as Peter said, it introduces a better Spider-Man in the sense. I don't think Garfield is a particularly great Peter Parker. I don't think he got the blend correct on those two. But I think he was a better Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire was. And I think you could go back and watch those Amazing Spider-Man films, and I was kind of sad not to, when they finished those, I think they left it on a really nice cliffhanger, and I was really looking forward to where it was going to go from there, and then they just, didn't. They obviously decided to go with a new Spider-Man, which is fair enough, but I would like to have seen where they were going to go, where they left on their cliffhanger at the end of that little run. But yeah, Black Panther will go through here, I think.
Ted, don't jinx it. You've done that twice.
Perfect. Do you?
No, because there's already been 3 votes. So.
Yeah, it's already.
Do you agree there, Robert, yourself?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the Mark Webb Amazing Spider-Man movies. I like Garfield as Spider-Man, and I actually the relationship, the chemistry between Garfield and Stone is really, really good. But I think Lizard is a pretty crappy villain, at least done in this movie, and I think that he's just too damn handsome to be that kind of Peter Parker, and I don't need to see the skater boy Coldplay listening Peter Parker. That's just not relatable. Who looks like Andrew Garfield is just that's just not a good representation of the character in my eyes. And I don't think the Uncle Ben death is as powerful as it is in other movies. So I'm not a huge fan of Amazing Spider-Man. I think it's fine, but Black Panther is. I mean, that's Ryan Coogler is
very good point.
Yeah, Black Panther is incredible.
Yep, no, 100% agree. Here, Greg, the 5-0.
5-0.
5-0.
Spider-Man for me
Next
was
up
just meh.
is two. Perfect. We have 2 very different MCU films.
Oh,
but let's see how it goes. It's Thor Ragnarok versus Doctor. And we'll start off with Peter.
Nice one for that. I could have used a minute to think. This one is this is a difficult one. Ragnarok finished out the Thor series really well. Taika Waititi just took the ball and ran with it. We had introduction to amazing characters like Korg and Meek. We had Tessa Thompson coming in, and it was let Thor be funny, but I also think it took away a lot of intimidation and strength from the Hulk's character. I think he, especially on Tessa Thompson, he was a big green puppy dog. But Doctor Strange, the visuals are next level. And Benedict Cumberbatch he plays it well. I have a
he's
feeling
the
that he
perfect
had
Doctor Strange.
I feel he had a time in the past where he was an arrogant, self-centered douchebag because he plays it too well to not have experienced it. So, it's a toss-up for me.
Yep,
I love the
that's
end of
fair.
Ragnarok.
So
I love Loki and Ragnarok, but I'm giving this one to Doctor Strange.
oh wow, Doctor Strange. I thought this may have been a fight. Oh, what about yourself?
Was that to me? Sorry.
Who was it?
Ted?
Me, sorry. Yeah, I think Doctor Strange has done quite well. I think Doctor Strange as a character is of vital importance later on in the series of Marvel, but I think as a standalone film, I don't think it's as good as a lot of the other films, and I don't think it's as good as Thor Ragnarok. I think Thor Ragnarok, although it does weaken Banner a little bit, which in the end actually works out quite well, I think it increases Thor and how important he is massively in comparison, especially to his first two standalone films, which were okay, but weren't anything special. Whereas I think this one is more than enough. Like if this was where Thor started, we'd have been looking at, Thor being one of the best trilogies. It's just a shame it took them two pretty like basic films to get to one really good one for Thor. So I'll give it to Thor.
Perfect. Rob, do you agree the same way, or which way are you going here?
Yeah, I'm going Ragnarok as well. I like Doctor Strange quite a bit more than most people. I love Rachel McAdams in that movie. Love Mads Mikkelsen in that movie. That movie's it's the right amount of weird for me. But Ragnarok is something really special. Taika Waititi coming in and just flipping that character on his head and really playing into the comedy aspect of Chris Hemsworth. That's just a really, really great film. And also Cate Blanchett, who kills it. Hella is one of the best MCU villains. Gotta go Ragnarok here.
Oh, completely kills it. Perfect. What about yourself, Greg? Which way are you going?
Thor for me. Korg and Meek, the two of the best things that came out of this
Thor.
movie. Like the movie's quality, but those two just lit the show up for me. It's just top end, Thor for me. Easy decision.
Perfect. No, I am voting myself for Thor Ragnarok as well. I will just have to say though, for Doctor Strange, I think it is one of the better origin stories that MCU do. I thought it was great. Although Rachel McAdams I think she's wasted it. I think that they could have done an awful lot more with her in the film. It's just I think she's too good of an actress for the role that. But Ragnarok has to go through for me and for this one. So we're finishing up almost there for round one. But there's only two matches left, and we'll kick it off with Ted first.
What?
Spot in there. No, that's completely wrong. Sorry about that,
So
lads.
Iron Man 3 gets a free buy? Is that what we're...
Wrong one there.
What? What's actually up against Iron Man 3
It
here?
should be one.
Something
In one of the Tobey
there.
Maguire ones.
Okay.
We'll get back to that one.
circle back,
It's Logan
Oh,
versus
okay.
Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah, we'll go back to that one while I figure that one out.
I think this one's going to be a pretty clean sweep here.
Yeah.
I think Logan's going to get the clean sweep.
I love
here.
Ant-Man and the Wasp. Oh.
I do like Ant-Man and the Wasp. I actually do think it is quite good. It's not as good as the original Ant-Man, I don't think, which is strange because normally the setup for the first film, the origin story, isn't the better of the series, but I think the origin was better than Ant-Man and the Wasp. But yeah, I think Logan will probably take this one quite handily. There is some stuff I don't particularly like about Logan, but I think it'll get through here handily enough.
Yeah, my vote is definitely for Logan there. For this one, I loved it. I came out of that film, and I think that was in my top 5 favorites of the year that it came out. And I adored that film. It was great. Don't get me wrong, Ant-Man and Wasp, I really enjoyed as well. But I thought of the 2 Ant-Man films, the first one was better. So I'm gonna have to vote for Logan there myself on that one. Uh,
Is he gone?
What say? I can go real quick
Yeah.
just while we're
Yeah,
waiting.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna go with
Yeah.
Logan. I think Ant-Man and the Wasp had the impossible standards of following up Infinity War, and I think people give it a bad rap because of that. If you go back and rewatch that movie just on its own, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's not Logan.
You're
Logan
not
is
wrong.
Logan's damn good.
It's better than that, I think. Like to start the movie off with him butchering a couple of people.
Yep, you're back.
To butchering a couple of people was brilliant. And then bringing Patrick Stewart back as well was quality. I think it's gonna go through a 5-0.
Yeah. If I may, I'm not sure if Carl's back or not.
was
Yes,
great
yeah.
there.
Is it accurate? Yeah. It's Ant-Man and the Wasp. My biggest problem with it was in terms of a chronological watch through of the MCU, it's very confusing because of that post credit scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Logan to me is top 5 comic book movies of all time. It's in my top 5, and I constantly put it there. It wasn't just a great comic book movie; it was a great movie. It went aside from itself. It
Hugh
was
Jackman
comic
was
book. It
class.
was also wasn't comic book. It was just outstanding all the way through. So, Logan, without question.
In there, and I remember movie to go up against Iron Man 3. The other MC. So it's Iron Man 3 up against Captain First Avenger.
Ooh, okay.
And then we'll start off there.
So I think who did you
Well, I
say?
didn't catch who we're starting with. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Rob. Sorry, don't know
Oh,
what's
okay.
happening with my
No,
internet
you're
here.
good.
Apologies.
So,
So Rob.
no, you're fine.
Yeah.
So Iron Man 3 or Cap First Avenger? Gotta go Cap First Avenger. I think Iron Man 3 is fine. It's a fun Shane Black movie, but I don't really think it fits as an Iron Man movie. It doesn't really fit into the MCU very well. I think the fake Mandarin itself on paper is actually really good and really funny, but Guy Pearce is really bad and does not sell it well at all in the last 25, 30 minutes of that movie. I do love the Ben Kingsley fake Mandarin, but they replaced Mandarin with a really crappy like villain, and the Gwyneth Paltrow like becoming a superhero, and then they just like never talk about that again. And he, throws the arc reactor into the ocean at the end, and then he just like is Iron Man still. Like at the end of that movie, he supposedly gave up.
Now we've lost him.
I think this one's going to be a pretty like clean sweep as well. Like if we're going to see 2 Iron Man films get knocked out and one go through, it's definitely not going to be Iron Man 3, is it? Like let's all be fair here. And it's coming up against a real juggernaut in
True.
Captain America, as Peter said earlier. Like the trilogy of films that did really well was Captain America. It looks like Spider-Man's on to follow suit, but for the moment, yes, it's the only one that they had a trilogy that did well. So I think Captain America's going to kind of go through here, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. The work the work, like the camera work
Yep,
they done
yeah.
on Cap 1, where he was skinny and he was small, and then he goes into the chamber and he comes out and he's absolutely shredded, was brilliant. Steve Rogers, Chris Evans is Steve Rogers, and Chris Evans when he was in Fantastic Four is ultimately forgettable. They brought him back, gave him a bit of justice for taking the piss out of him in Fantastic Four. To be honest, like he's a good actor. Like he seems like an arrogant arsehole in most things, but he played this very well. He didn't deserve the shit show that he got from doing Fantastic Four.
And this Fantastic Four aren't real, okay? They don't exist yet. They're not real so far, okay? Let's everyone forget about them. They're not real. Those were nightmares. They don't exist, okay?
100%. Well, within that as well, then you have it. It's just a
Yeah,
tragic.
no, that's definitely true. So right, so we have Captain
Sorry,
America.
did you get my
movie
vote for that one?
cruising
Sorry,
out,
my
sure.
Wi-Fi like died there.
We just made up your vote,
Oh.
and
Yeah,
Iron
don't
Man 3
worry.
went through based on your
Oh,
vote.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that was what I was going to vote anyways, because
Yeah.
no, no. First Avenger is much better.
Yeah, no, I think we all agreed that
Yeah, no,
if
100%.
any
And
Iron
even,
Man film was going to
100%,
go
yeah.
through, it wasn't going to be Iron Man 3. So
That is correct.
even now, like look at the weight of the first Avenger now in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That line of not just a good soldier, a good man, and the speech about power and how good becomes great, bad becomes worse is just holding so much weight in the current MCU that like this movie was made years and years back, one of the first in phase 1, and it's still holding so much weight today.
True.
It's one of the other cornerstones of the MCU.
Very true. Very true. So we have round 1 finished there. We're going to move on the next one through, and we'll kick off there with Greg yourself, and it's going to be Avengers Infinity War up against X-Men Far From Home.
Infinity War. Make it nice and quick. I gave my points on X-Men.
That's fair.
X-Men Far From Home. That's not right.
no.
It's not. No,
Uh,
it's X-Men Days of Future Past. Sorry, Days of Future
Yeah.
Past.
No, it's still gonna be
Technical
Infinity War.
errors. Technical errors. Sorry.
I made my points on X-Men with the 3 lads in it earlier, or with the 2 lads in it earlier. Infinity War for me.
Perfect. Infinity War. Ted, did you vote the same way?
Yeah, I think so. Like I love those X-Men films as well, but I like Infinity War is, it's Infinity War. Like we spent so long building up to get into Infinity War and Endgame. I don't think, like, realistically, I can't see anything beating either of those two out until it's one versus the other. Because they're just so good, because they'd learned so much from all their previous films, and they were able to put them together and get to that point. And as much as I do love the X-Men, I don't think that one is, like, it's not going to beat Infinity War. So
Perfect. Do you feel the same way there yourself, Peter? Are you going for Infinity War?
Infinity War is that other movie that is head to head with Winter Soldier that keeps jumping up and down between the 1 and 2 spots for, in my opinion, the best comic movies of all time. So yeah, Infinity War is gonna, until it comes up against the Winter Soldier, it's gonna blaze through everything.
That's fair enough. Rob, do you agree with yourself?
Yeah, Ted took the words right out of my mouth. I really do like Days of Future Past, but Infinity War is just stellar.
Yeah, I know that. I think it's a 5-0 sweep here, which is nothing to say, nothing bad against X-Men Days of Future Past. It's just Infinity War is phenomenal.
Infinity War.
Next up, and this is such a tough with Ted for this one. I'm sorry to do it to you. but it is Spider-Man: Far From Home against Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'm voting first. Am I?
You are.
I think I'd go Guardians here. I think Guardians is probably one of the strongest MCU films out there. I don't know that Spider-Man: Far From Home is the best of the Spider-Mans. So yeah, I'll go Guardians of the Galaxy here.
Guardians. What about yourself, Peter? I know you're a Spider-Man fan, so this one is good for you.
It is difficult for me. I love the Guardians one. It was just amazing from the soundtrack to everything. I'm gonna have to go with Far From Home though. Just it got to me, and I know it like annoyed a lot of people. And it gets a bad rap. It's kind of a 50-50 movie among a lot of comic fans. But I love Jake Gyllenhaal in anything he's in, and the reveal with Jameson at the end, just like I almost broke my partner's leg from squeezing it beside it, like in the cinema. I was like, "What?" And it just for pure reactions, Far From Home gets it.
It is a difficult one, Rob. What do you think yourself?
I made my points about Far From Home clear at the start. Guardians for me. I like Far From Home, but Guardians is just
Okay, it's
perfect.
I really enjoyed the two films, but Spider-Man is my superhero. So I'm gonna have to go for Far From Home here. As much as I enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy and the soundtrack and everything about the film is hilarious. It's probably the funniest film in the MCU, but Far From Home it is for me. So I give Greg the deciding vote. Which one
Thanks,
is it?
pal.
Anytime.
I really I did I enjoyed Far From Home. I did. I do like Jake Gyllenhaal in most things, if not almost everything. Actually, my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal movie is The Bubble Boy. But Galaxy is going through here. Soundtrack to the movie itself. Like Chris Pratt as Star-Lord is quality. It's just it's just an easy one for me at this minute.
Perfect. So that's Guardians of the Galaxy going through to the next round. And next up, we have another one of your favorite, Peter. It's Captain America: Winter Soldier, but this time it's up against Deadpool.
Am I going first or on this one?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, Peter.
Deadpool, amazing movie. I've made my points in it already. It was outstanding, but it's just one of those things. It's basically like if I'm watching football, I enjoy Barcelona. My favorite team is Liverpool. This is Liverpool coming up against Barcelona. So in my emotional state, there's only one winner, and that's Winter Soldier.
Okay,
So
that's
Deadpool
fair
gets my
enough.
vote then?
What about yourself, Rob?
I gotta go for Winter Soldier. I like Deadpool a lot, but Winter Soldier is just such an inventive movie in the category or in the catalog of MCU movies. And Captain America is like my favorite hero in the MCU, and this movie's just so good.
Yeah, I'm with you there. As much as I enjoyed Deadpool, Soldier has my vote. For this one, Greg and Ted, are you guys the same?
Well,
I'd probably
seeing
have
as
given Deadpool.
seeing as he tired Winter Soldier through to Liverpool, I'm gonna go with Deadpool. Two very good movies though. Ted gave Deadpool a vote.
Yeah, I think Deadpool. I really like Captain America: Winter Soldier as well, but I think Deadpool as its own standalone film, I think, was so good that I would have put Deadpool through. But
It's just it picked a bad draw really. That could have went
Okay,
really far
perfect.
depending on what it got.
Yeah, it just came up against a tough one. Next here, very different. And actually, Rob, you're going to start off with this one. It's a very, very difficult one to choose, in my opinion. But we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse against the Avengers.
I think you're on mute there, Rob.
Sorry about that. Yeah, this is a tough one, for sure. But ultimately, I think I have to go Spider-Verse. I love Avengers. I love what it did for comic book filmmaking. I love what it did for the MCU. But Spider-Verse is just like outstanding on every level. Just everything about that movie is so endlessly watchable and endlessly satisfying. And I could see the argument being made. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand the argument of the Avengers. You know, the pacing it's a little bit long. There's a little bit bloated. Hasn't necessarily aged visually compared to what the MCU does now visually. But I love Avengers, but Spider-Verse for me. Yeah.
I'm right there. I'm right there with you. To be honest, Spider-Verse gets my vote in this. I loved it. I'm not. There's no other argument about it. You know, I loved, as much as I loved the Avengers, I loved Spider-Verse more. I can't disparage the Avengers in any way. But Spider-Verse definitely has my vote. Greg, what about yourself?
No, I'm going Avenger. Avengers was this was the movie that
Avengers.
changed the game really. I think. Like there's some of the solo movies are obviously better than the Avengers, but the Avengers was it was like the jump into something major for me anyway. Like I remember the hype going
Okay,
into
perfect.
it, the build
Ted.
up, the long build up to it.
Yeah, I'll go
Yeah,
Avengers.
yeah.
I'll go Avengers here. I think this was the first big risk
Good guy, Ted.
for. Yeah, well, one, I'm good guy Ted, so I can't vote anything out. But two, I think this is the first time that they took the big risk of putting all the superheroes into one film, like, and cross promoting them into one thing, and it could have gone really badly. And they did such a good job of it that they were able to, continue on the story that they wanted to do. And if had that gone badly, we wouldn't have got the rest of the MCU. Like,
Very true.
Yeah, I think that would have been it.
Very
It would
true.
have been
So it comes
over.
down to yourself, Peter.
Sound, lads. Nice one. Listen, Into the Spider-Verse is revolutionary in the animated game. It's brought interest back to animated Marvel shows. DC held the monopoly on animation for years, and this has put Marvel back into the game. But I've made a point on it already before. The Avengers made me care about Hawkeye, and like that's not
not
to be
easy.
taken lightly. So I'm gonna go against my Stan character, and I'm gonna go with Avengers.
Avengers. Okay.
From 2 down to 3-2
Speaking of the Avengers. Speaking of the Avengers, we have Endgame now up against X-Men First Class. And we can start this one off with myself. I'm going with Endgame.
I have a
Choice
feeling
for
this is
myself
going to be 5-0 here.
I don't really
you
have.
count me for Endgame as well.
Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah.
As I said, I don't think Endgame or Infinity Wars are getting knocked out by anything other than each other here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Lads, just say I was at the hop off now. Unfortunately, just the perks of being a parent. But
yep.
Going forward, listen, thanks for having me on.
No bother at all there. If you have anything to promote there yourself.
Yeah, just the Superior Comic Show. You'll find us on the Dynamo Podcast Network or the Superior Comic Show on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all the usual social media things that are rotting people's brains. Going forward in this, Ted knows my choices himself. Endgame is going to be everything. Not Endgame, sorry. Infinity War is going to go right through for me. Winter Soldier right through. If they come up against each other, flip a coin for me.
Vote by proxy.
No bother at all there, Peter.
Yeah, thanks a million.
Thanks
Have a
very
great
much,
time,
man.
lads. A
Cheers,
pleasure.
bud.
Thank you, man. Good to meet you.
Shalom. Bye bye. Perfect. So going forward, is just the four of us. So what's going to happen? I won't make the vote. I'll try and sway some arguments if you want. It'll just be the three of you lads that'll be voting from here on out in this. And to start that one off, we have, as Endgame is going through, we have Spy up against Captain America: Civil War. And we'll start off with yourself, Greg.
Civil War. I liked Homecoming, as it says. Michael Keaton as Vulture was brilliant. The pick line that is the love interest was his daughter. Was quality, but Civil War was just a juggernaut of a movie. To bring Tom Holland, I wasn't overly great. I wasn't an overly great fan of the casting. Now he's done really well as Spider-Man. But to bring him back after so long out in Sony land, was instrumental in the movies. So yeah, Civil War for me.
Perfect. Okay. And yourself, Ted?
Yeah, I'd go Good Guy Ted. I'll go Spider-Man Homecoming. Good Guy Ted never puts anything out. Spider-Man Homecoming.
We're
Guess they're going to him
supposed to be
first every
bros
time, so
here.
we get his real opinion.
We're supposed to be bros
Oh yeah,
here, man.
this is going to be
Yeah, but
happening now. I'm going to have to.
I'm Good Guy Ted. You know, I can't be the bad guy.
Okay. So we'll go with yourself, Rob. You get the deciding vote for this one.
Yeah, it's going to be Civil War for me. I like both these movies a lot, but Civil War is just much more instrumental into the overall MCU, and just as a one-off, it's a better movie in my opinion.
Perfect. Yeah. If I was voting,
as
I
a
would have gone
one-off,
the same
don't
way.
know.
I love Homecoming.
Yeah, Homecoming's really good.
Honestly,
I like that movie a lot.
as a one-off movie, I
Oh.
don't know if Civil War might be a better movie.
Yeah.
It's certainly stronger because of the background to it. But
Right,
like,
that's true.
if you watch that from a person that's never seen it, a lot of it might you were looking at it going, "What the fuck is going on here?"
Maybe.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at it in that sense, though, that if Civil War was made and it was a one-off film,
Right.
you would have got that background in the film. Like their presumption is that you will have watched other things to get you to that point. So I
Oh, yeah.
like it's kind of hard to judge something by like a one-off film when it is, you know, a continuation of a big story. Like,
No, it's not really fair to say that Homecoming's the better one-off movie.
Yeah,
Or
you're right.
It's
You're
the
right.
it's the first one of a series, so you get that background. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
hard. Like if that had been Iron
True.
Man or Captain America 1 against Homecoming, you could say either one are a good standalone movie. But overall, like if you're watching it as a once-off movie, I can't really say one's better than the other. It's not really fair to be like, it's a better one-off movie. Civil War is a better one-off movie. I it's just harsh to agree with that. Like,
Okay. This is actually a really, really tough one. And Ted, we will start off with yourself. It's Black Panther up against Thor Ragnarok.
Okay, so
here we go.
okay, so not a tough one. Genuinely not. And I'm gonna, and I hate having to do this. Black Panther as a film is not particularly good. Black Panther as a character is brilliant. And he has done fantastically, absolutely fantastically in the Avengers. Unfortunately, in Black Panther itself, he as a character has not done that well. The best character in Black Panther is actually Michael B. Jordan. And
Correct.
if the best character you have in your film is the bad guy, it kind of hurts your film a lot, I think. Especially when you're trying to put over the good
the Dark
guy.
Knight. Does that hurt the Dark Knight?
That's what I was literally about to say. Is that like you can't just judge a
You
movie
know,
off the bad guy.
I think it's a fair point.
If the bad
Yeah.
guy's being the best in it, like if you look at even Silence of the Lambs, Anthony Hopkins is the bad guy. He's only in it for 13 minutes and he steals the show. You know what I mean?
No,
It's very
but
harsh to judge a movie if the bad guy is the best.
no, but the Silence of the Lambs is a little bit different because it's about the bad guy. Really, like it's about the bad guy. You know, that's so like him being the main focal point is kind of important to that film. I think the fact that Michael B. Jordan outacts Chadwick Boseman in this film kind of hurts it. And I think, and this is a little bit controversial, I think they tried too hard to focus on his nationality in a way, which I don't think they should have done. I don't think that needed to be driven so hard. That's not what Black Panther is about. His nationality isn't the most important thing about the Black Panther. And I think that kind of hurt the film a little bit. I think Thor Ragnarok is one of the best.
Well, they did have
in the entire
they did
series.
have to kind of. Wakanda wasn't, really part of the MCU as well. So not only were they introducing Black Panther into the MCU itself, they were introducing Wakanda and how big a Wakanda.
Yeah, they were, but they didn't focus on.
Do something to make Wakanda as important as it is, and they did that through making his national.
Yeah, but they didn't focus on making Wakanda important. They focused on making his tribe in Wakanda important, and I think that's a little bit. That was kind of the wrong. Like the people of Wakanda are meant to all be together. They're not meant to be, all hating each other. They're meant which is kind of what it comes across as in this, that they all actually dislike each other, and then he bands them together, which would mean that they were at war all these years until he got there, which isn't the case, and it wasn't the case. So I think that they kind of made mistakes in that film that I didn't really like. So for me, it's Thor Ragnarok, and I know that's probably an unpopular vote to a lot of people because I think a lot of people do hold Black Panther very high. But even in terms of just the MCU and forgetting everything I've said, I don't think Black Panther's up there as one of the best MCU films either. As a standalone film compared to a lot of other films, it's brilliant. But when I look at it and analyze it compared to other MCU films, I don't think it's as good as a lot of the other ones.
Right. Okay. That's one for Ragnarok. Rob, what about yourself?
For different reasons, I'm actually also going to vote for Ragnarok. If I'm going to put one of these on right now, it's going to be Ragnarok. It's the movie I like more. I connect with the humor more. I like the action more. The action Black Panther is very good. The end is a little bit too much CGI soup. There's a death fake out, which I really hate in movies where they say, "Oh, the character's dead. Wait 10 minutes, he'll be back." I think that is really that's not good as far as stakes in a movie. And an MCU in general has a problem with doing that. It does it across all of its movies. I just think it's very prevalent in Black Panther. That being said, I do think the filmmaking of Black Panther, it may be the best technically made film. The cinematography is brilliant and the acting is perfect, and I think they focus on exactly what they need to for what that movie is. So I do really like Black Panther quite a bit. I think the villain having a point is a very good thing. I think Chadwick Boseman is incredible. The scene where he is in the spirit realm, I can't think of what it's called right now, but talking to his father, talking about how he was wrong to turn his back on the rest of the world and how Killmonger is their fault. I think that scene is brilliant and heartbreaking and just as good as any scene that Michael B. Jordan puts up in that movie. Black Panther is a very, very, very well made movie. Ragnarok is just the one that I like a little more and I've rewatched a little bit more.
That's fair enough. Greg, would you have gone the same way, or would you have given?
I would have. I enjoyed Black Panther, but I literally only said to my wife before I came on here. I was like, we were talking about Black Panther, and I said Michael B. Jordan was the best thing in that movie. But actually, Andy Serkis was one of the best things in that movie. But Michael B. Jordan was absolutely phenomenal in that movie. as the bad guy. It's a good movie, and it was what it was. It came like I'm not. There's certain things you can say and certain things you can't before people start getting pissed off at you about it because of the type of movie that it is. I'm just gonna say Thor was just a better movie overall.
I genuinely thought Black Panther was going to get more votes,
Perfect.
and that's
Okay,
why I
so
went in so hard on it there to try and like sway people away from voting on it. Like, I actually do think Black Panther is quite a good film. I just don't think it's as good as some people have made it out to be, especially in terms of the MCU.
It's not as good as Thor Ragnarok either. So
no, I think Black Panther is actually done better in all of the other films, and the characters from Black Panther I think are actually done well in the likes of Avengers, Infinity Wars, Endgame, and stuff like that. I actually think they do the character better justice in there than they did in their own film, which is why I don't like the film so much. That's actually kind of one of my main problems with it.
It's enjoyable. That's one of them ones
it's
that you
good,
say.
like, it's good. Like it's just in comparison to other MCU films, it's just not as good as them. You know, and that's kind of like it's like being like you're comparing something to loads of other really good things. Like, if you compare to 1,000 other films, it's better than all of them. But when you compare everything to like if everything's at a certain standard, something has to be at the bottom of the pile, which Black Panther isn't. But like, if something's good, it still gets pushed down the pile in comparison to other really good things. Like,
well, there's the thing we were saying earlier about the standalone movies. There's your standalone movie that you can get away with as being very, very good in Black Panther. But no, it came up against an absolute titan.
It's true. And next up, we have the last one to finish off this round. We have Logan against Captain America: The First Avenger, and we'll start off with yourself, Greg.
Logan for me. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Logan.
From the seconds up in the limo to the lad jacking his tires to the end credits. I was sitting there in the cinema going, "Yes, Hugh Jackman, you just pulled on my heartstrings, you bastard."
And yourself, Rob?
Sorry, I was muted again. It's Logan for me, for sure.
Logan. Okay, that's 2
votes
for Logan. Would you have gone the same way there, Ted?
No, actually, I wouldn't. Genuinely, I don't. I think Logan is very good, and I did enjoy it. As I said earlier, though, there was some stuff I didn't like about it. I won't get into them now because there's no point, because it's already gone through regardless. But I think Captain America is one of the best origin stories that the MCU did. I think it's probably one of the best ones that they did. So I'm surprised to see it go out. But again, it is up against Logan, so not overly surprised. I think Logan was very good as well. So
there's a lot of love for Hugh Jackman, and they knew it was his last movie, so I think they put everything they could into it to make it what it was. Now I personally wouldn't be surprised if he comes back once more.
We're into the final 8, and 7 of them are from the MCU. So, starting off the next round, we'll start off with yourself there, Rob. We have Avengers: Infinity War versus Guardians of the Galaxy.
This might be my 1 and 2.
Now it starts to get difficult.
Yeah, this is really tough. Yeah, this might be my 1 and 2. It's 2 of the top 4 for sure.
Right.
I don't feel good about it, but I'm going to say Infinity War.
Infinity War 1 vote. Greg, do you agree?
Yeah. As much no, I don't agree. Sorry, Infinity War. No, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Perfect.
For me. Guardians.
Okay.
No, it's Guardians for me. Just to make Ted the bad guy.
Right. Okay. Ted,
We-
you get the decision. You get the decision. Is it
What-
Infinity War, or are you causing a huge upset and voting for Guardians?
No, you see, because you see, I'm not the bad guy because I know 2 votes. Peter told us his votes on the way out. Infinity War goes through until it comes up against Winter
That's
Soldier,
actually true.
and I got and I. So
So
that's
you're
there's,
voting Guardians.
there's Peter's vote, and then I'll give a vote to Guardians because I'm not the bad guy.
So it's up to you.
Bad guy, Carl. Well done,
What?
Carl.
You
What I will
technical
say
son of a bitch.
is, what I will say is, I did say once Peter left, that it's just down. So I will say I do apologize, but you do have to vote.
No, Peter gave Peter.
No,
I did vote, and I
finicking
gave you
your
Peter's
way
vote
around
as
this
well.
one.
No, there's no finicking. Peter gave everyone what his choices would be up until the end for two specific films. He gave his votes. So, would we be? I think we would be remiss to not take what he gave us.
Well, it's Infinity War. Go then. Infinity War will go through because that would be my vote.
The hell,
and
bro! I
against-
thought I set him up
or,
for a bad guy.
the next round is we have Captain America: Winter Soldier versus the Avengers, and we'll start off with yourself, Ted.
So I'll give you Peter's vote, which would be Winter Soldier, as he told us, and I'll give you my vote, which would be Winter Soldier. So it's 2-0.
Winter Soldier for me as well.
Okay, Winter Soldier for as well. That's quite easy. Would you have gone the same way, Greg? Because I would have as well.
Yeah. As good
Okay,
as
so
Avengers
that's
was.
5 for
Bucky-
Winter
Bucky-
Soldier going right through.
So now are we going down to 3 votes, or do we going to
Perfect,
keep Peter's
okay.
vote?
It's only for those films that he gave us his votes. So
From here, next up we have, and we'll start off with Ted, Avengers Endgame versus Captain America: Civil War.
this is a very tough one because I think Civil War did a really good job of making the branch out that they needed, because they couldn't just have them all be on the same page the entire time. So I think Civil War did a really, really good job of doing that, and allowing the fan base to have a decision of Team Tony or
Which
Team
side?
Captain. Yeah, like it gave that kind of choice to people. But as I said from earlier, everything was leading to Infinity War and Endgame. Like they were all leading to that. And there was a reason they were all leading to that, because the 2 of them were 2 of the best films produced. So I would go Endgame here.
Endgame, 1 vote. Rob, what about yourself?
Endgame for me as well. Love Civil War, but Endgame is the cherry on top of a wonderful sundae, and it's done perfectly. It's done so well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Greg, would you have gone the same way, or was Civil War getting a vote?
I said 3 there, but Civil War deserves a vote. It shouldn't go out 3-0. As good as Endgame is, and as good as Civil War is, it doesn't deserve to lose 3-0. I'll give a pity vote to them. But other than that, it would have went to Endgame anyway. If it was on
Okay.
a tie, it would have went to Endgame.
Yeah.
Perfect. And the final one in the last 8, we have Thor Ragnarok up against Logan. And we'll start off with Rob. Why don't we start with yourself?
This is a tough one.
It is.
I think I'm gonna say Logan. I think I'm gonna say Logan. Exactly. Very different movies. We have a lot of MCU already. I want to see Logan continue. I think the performance of Patrick Stewart in this movie is so good, and Hugh Jackman just capping off a 10+ year run as or 17+ year run, excuse me, as the character is just done so well. I love Daphne Keane in this movie. I think this is a really good one. And I love Ragnarok too, but I'm gonna say Logan. And tomorrow, if you ask me the same question, I'd probably switch it. But Very close for me, but Logan.
That whiskey's going straight to your
Okay,
head.
perfect. And Greg, what about yourself?
It's Thor Ragnarok for me. I would have given a pity vote to Logan because I actually thought the two lads would have voted Thor. But no, Thor Ragnarok's superior. It's just this movie with Hulk and Thor bringing Krill and Meek into it. And just overall, it was just for was it 2.5 hours or whatever it is. I sat there going, "Wow, absolutely." Now I sat there like that for Logan as well, but Thor, I really, really enjoyed Thor. I didn't like the first two, but this one here got me. I was sitting there going, "Yeah, you got it."
Okay, perfect. So, Ted, yourself, you get the deciding vote.
Yeah, as I said, I have some problems with Logan as a film. I know that they were looking at the fact that this is Hugh Jackman's, well, apparently Hugh Jackman's final film with the character of Wolverine. Now, whether that's true or not is another question. But
I don't think
as of now, it's considered to be his final film for Wolverine. And because of that, they went out of their way to make it, here's the end of X-Men. And here's the end of mutants. Like mutants, even Wolverine, who, he ages well and, his ability allows him to heal. That's disappearing. And the likes of, as mutants get older, their powers weaken. And they made it, like, that's part of it. Like, that's one of the main plot points of this film. And that really hurts the likes of, mutants going forward. And I think that was a really bad move by them. I also, and I know the idea is that Charles went senile, but it was so far away from what the character of Charles Xavier always was, to being, from being level-headed and caring about the people around him, to him just being, so selfish and uncaring. I think it was a bad move there as well. So for me, this one's not that difficult. Like, I enjoyed Logan when I watched it, and I think it is quite a good film on its own. But I think the implications it has for the likes of X-Men and stuff in the future, if you count it as part of the other films, it hurts so much to everything else that I don't think it should go through. So for me, Thor Ragnarok would go through here.
Like within what Ted was saying there about him aging and losing his powers. If you go back to the very first X-Men where Ian McKellen was Magneto, he's not young in that movie and he's as strong as ever, you know what I mean? Where Wolverine is losing his powers as he's getting older. Like by the time Logan came around, I'd say he's near enough supposedly the same age as Ian McKellen is as Magneto in that movie.
He's probably older. Logan is probably older than Magneto. But
in Logan or in general?
Oh, definitely.
Just in general, because
Logan
fought
in the American Revolutionary War in the 1700s.
Yeah, because of his healing powers, he was able to stay young.
That,
But then they've kind of now they have to like renegade on that for this specific film, which is why I don't dislike about it.
Yeah, Logan's hundreds of years old.
Yeah, that's what I disliked about this film.
And also, these movies take place in the future. As well.
Yeah, but like they had to like renegade on so much of what they built up for Logan, which is why I dislike what I dislike about Logan, not why I dislike, because I don't dislike Logan, but it's what would mark it down against other films for me.
Perfect. So we are into the final four, and this one here is probably one of the hardest ones we've had to do. It's a toughie. It's Avengers Infinity War versus Captain America Winter Soldier. Ted, we'll start with yourself here.
Can anyone remember
what you can't let Peter's votes go in
can anyone remember what Peter did?
He said if these two come up against each other, flip a coin. So we're just not going to... Yeah, we won't worry about it.
Okay, well, I'll make them vote against me then. Easy, right? No.
No.
as I said, until they came up against each other, for me, there's two films that can't really be beaten by other films. That's Infinity War and Endgame. So to me, I think if Infinity War does go through, Captain America: Winter Soldier is very, very good. I don't know if it's even my favorite of the Captain Americas because all three of them are so good. I don't know if I think it's the best of the three. It's definitely like they're all so good. I don't know where I would rank them in their tiers, but I think everything built towards Infinity War and Endgame, which I suppose can kind of be argued should be one film, but they just were like, we can't make, a 6 or 7 hour film and ask people to sit through that. So we'll just split it in two. And it leaves the cliffhanger
Unless
at the
you're
end of
Zack
the first.
Snyder.
Yeah, but his was still only 4, like it's still not that, like it's still not 6 hours length. But I think Infinity War, they left you with that cliffhanger, and everything built towards Infinity War and Endgame. So for me, Infinity War would go through.
Perfect. And Jake, yes, we have. It sounds like a U. It's like it's film. That's the way we have it. What about
Correct way, yes.
yourself, there, Rob?
I also go Infinity War. Love both of these movies, but Infinity War, I think Ted summed it up perfectly. Just the culmination of so much, and the cliffhanger, and the stakes of the character development, not just the deaths of certain characters, and the character deaths that do remain really, really matter. It definitely Infinity War for me.
Perfect. Okay, that is Infinity War going through to the finals. Yeah, so Ian, you've just joined in there. We are into the semi-finals here. We just had Infinity War going through against Captain America: Winter Soldier, and the other semi-finals that we have is, and we'll start off here with Greg. It's Avengers: Endgame against Thor: Ragnarok.
Thanks, May. Like, just like I think the two lads are probably going to go in game here. I'm going to go Thor, just so it's not Avengers Endgame versus Infinity War. I loved Endgame. I loved Thor Ragnarok. Endgame was what Endgame was. All right, Ian. Endgame was what Endgame was, and as good as it was. I think if I was to sit down and watch one of these now, I'd probably put Thor Ragnarok because it's more enjoyable. It's not the right thing to say. It's, I don't know, you could say it's a bit of an easier watch
It's
and a
definitely
bit
an
more
easier
humor
watch.
in it. I know.
Is it more enjoyable?
It's
though? Do you not get all that enjoyment with Cap getting Mjolnir? Is that not the best moment?
Well, see, within that, like, you get that point, right? And that's all well and good. And then Cap goes and beats an absolute dickhead when he changes the past to suit himself. Do you know what I mean? There's certain things that's good and bad about it. I know I'm going Thor.
Perfect. That's one for Thor. Rob, what about yourself?
I would have said this whether or not he said Thor, but Endgame for me. I think, unfortunately, Ted's gonna have a decision to make,
Yeah.
but I think Endgame is the one that I'll go back to more often. They're both great. They both have plenty of humor, plenty of weight, but Endgame really is just such a great bookend to this saga.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. If I was voting, it would be the same way there myself. Ted, what about you?
Yeah, as I said in response to Greg, like Thor Ragnarok is the easier watch in terms of, it's just lighthearted. It's just fun the entire way through. Like, it's more comedic. There's nothing that tugs at, heartstrings or anything in it. So in terms of that, it's an easier watch because like you don't need to battle with any sort of like conflict or anything like that. But like all these films built up to one big film, which was split into two, and it's Infinity Wars and Endgame. So, like, for me, it's Endgame. Although I don't know if I agree with Greg's thing about Cap being an asshole for going back. I think there's an argument that he goes back and that was
Agreed.
always what happened. So I don't know, but I think it was always going to come down to these two unless they met earlier in this, and it was going to be Infinity Wars and Endgame.
Before we start the final, can that Jake fella elaborate as to what 3 and 4 are? If Black Panther's at 2 and Endgame is 5.
He can comment in on that, but while he's doing that, we'll get started on the finals here, and we'll start off there with yourself, Rob. We probably all could have guessed these two may have come into may have been the last two, when we came to it. Everyone has their preference of which one is better. So which one would you hear?
Yeah, I'm just gonna rip it off like a band-aid, go quick. Infinity War, I think, is the better movie. They're both great. They both have emotional weight and stakes and brilliant effects and performances and humor and all that good stuff. I just think Infinity War is a little bit tighter. I think Endgame is brilliant, and I love every second of that movie. But I think Infinity War is just a bit tighter of a story. I don't know the best way to describe it. The script is a little bit tighter. The runtime is a little bit tighter. It's just a little bit smoother than Endgame is.
Perfect. If I was voting, I'd be going Infinity War myself. And what about yourself, Greg?
I'm gonna kill this here now. Infinity War for me. I thought it was the better of the two. The story was
perfect.
The story for Endgame was always going the way it was going, and you knew they were going to take out and come back and try and prevail everything. Now everyone knew somebody was going to die in it. Do you know what I mean? And it became very evident who it was going to be very quickly. I just think Infinity War. I enjoyed Infinity War more than I enjoyed Endgame. Sorry.
Perfect.
Ted,
And Ted, yourself, would you have gone for the same?
I don't know. See, Endgame had the trouble that it had to deal with time travel. Okay, so and it's always going to be difficult to deal with time travel unless you set out your rules very, very early on how time travel works, and that's not something that had really been done. They also had to think of a way that they could time travel, so they had to explain how that would all work. So I think there was a lot of difficulties put into Endgame, which is why I think, as Rob said, Infinity War has a tighter script, and like the film as a whole is probably tighter. I think it's because they had to jump through a certain amount of hoops for Endgame to work, which makes it less tight because you have to suspend certain things to just allow that to flow. But I don't know. I think the heartstrings that they pull at in Endgame are probably bigger than the ones that were pulled at in Infinity War. So I probably would have gone Endgame, but yeah, as I said, like I still consider these one film. Like, it's just similar to how they broke up the last Harry Potter into two films. I think of this as one giant film.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All I'll say there is about the emotional stuff is that at the end of Infinity War, when I was leaving the film, I was completely and utterly, absolutely devastated. After the blip, I just sat there, me and the wife, we just sat there and we were completely and utterly devastated. But we have done it. We have done it. We have finished it off. The Sherlock Reel Marvel winner, as you can see, is Avengers Infinity War. We've gone through these 32 films and finally came up with a winner. So I'm just going to say thank you all for being here. Obviously, we had the Superior Comic Show. And why don't we just let you all just promote whatever you have coming up there. Rob, what about yourself?
Just real quick, you can find me on the Movie Trivia Schmodown, which is a trivia show about this kind of stuff. So if you don't want to talk to me or hear me talk about, what's better than what, or share opinions like that, but answer trivia questions about it, that's where you can find me. The Movie Trivia Schmodown. Yeah, that's about it for me.
And do you have a match coming up soon? Do you?
I do. I have a match coming up at the end of April against Brandon Hanna, who's a very good competitor as well. We both play in what's called the Inner Geekdom division, which is, Marvel, and it's Harry Potter and Middle Earth and Star Wars and Star Trek and Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's Terminator and Predator and Alien and a whole bunch of categories. So it's very specific trivia about the nerdy stuff that we all love.
Perfect. I'm actually look forward to that match. It's going to Ted, yourself. Anything to promote?
Yeah, so as usual, good guy Ted here. Retrotainment is my podcast. I do it with my co-host, capital C, capital O, Greg above, part of the Dynamo Podcast Network, which is where you would find Peter's Superior Comic Show as well. Our most recent film that we looked at was Happy Gilmore, so that's up since earlier today, if people want to check that out. And we're on Twitter at Retrotainment1. And what was the name of the person that Rob's going up against?
Brandon Hanna is who I'm playing.
Yeah, Brandon,
He
you're a
doesn't
piece of
stand a
shit.
chance.
Brandon Hanna.
Damn right. That's what we like to hear.
Rob for the W.
And then Greg, yourself.
As it says, it's the same as Ted. I'm not going to waste everyone's time repeating exactly what he said. Retrotainment on Dynamo Podcast Network. Find all your needs there: movies, sport, music. Have a check it out. Now it's time
Perfect.
for WrestleMania.
So, well, that will be coming on now soon. I will say thank you for everyone that joined us here tonight. Next week I won't be having a show, but again I'll be back then the following week. The week of the Oscars. We'll be looking at. We'll have another one of these brackets, and we'll be going through the last 32 Oscars to find out which one. It'll be an interesting bracket to say the least. So I'll leave you here with the winner of it's Avengers: Infinity War winning the Marvel one. Slán.